pretty frequently. So today we're going to have some kirtan, and then we can have Krishna Katha, which means to discuss Krishna and also instructions given by Krishna and about how to attain Krishna. And then we'll have a offering of lights for Damodar Ashtakam, during the Damodar Ashtakam. Is everyone okay?
Yes.
Okay. How about if we start with some kirtan? Thank you. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radharani Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai go Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai go Hari Bo. Nitai go Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai go Hari Bo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Go Premanande! I first offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual masters, Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to all the previous acharyas who taught the system of bhakti, and to all of you who are walking steadfastly on the path of bhakti. Hare Krishna. We're in the midst of reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and at this verse today, we're hearing from Brahma, who's a servant of Krishna, and he has the power to create forms in this world. Kumbh Mela. And so it's good to get insight from him about the right attitude for creating anything, as he has a lot of experience with it. I think we can relate to him too, because he also has frustrations, frustrating circumstances. Has anybody ever had any of those? Yes. Let me count. Okay. And actually, in one of his purports that we already read from this book, Prabhupada said frustration is a sign that we don't really belong in the world, because we wouldn't even notice if there wasn't a dichotomy between our subtlety and the gross and clunky nature of the material energy. So we can thank Krishna for that we have the awareness to see that. Also, we may see from Brahma that he proceeds whatever he does with prayers, because he realizes that he's actually an instrument and he's not the ultimate creator of anything. And this can be very helpful also because there are a lot of implications for being the doer. As Krishna already mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, I say already because it's sort of a preliminary study to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in it he mentions that the motive for which we work in the world is very important. And that if I consider that I own the result of my work, then that becomes a burden to me. And it's actually what entangles me in the material world. And it seems at first counterintuitive, however, it's effective. And that is that if one changes that perspective, and the motive isn't that I get to keep the result, but I'm doing my work dutifully, and I make sure I'm doing the right duty also, then I work in the world, but as Krishna says, I don't become burdened by it. And that's important. And so thinking of oneself as an instrument, and also praying for help when help is needed. And pretty much it's always needed if one has much ambition at all. to move forward in life. I think of the time in which Brahma, during the creative process, was frustrated about the earth not being aligned in its axis. Do you remember that? I mean, were you around for that part? Earlier, previous millenniums. We're all souls here, right? We've been around forever. We just happen to be here right now, which I'm really happy about. I get the best end of the deal to be with all of you. And so Brahma got frustrated because things weren't lining up. And the earth had fallen out of its axis, off its axis. I don't know what to call that. And he sat down in meditation, and an entity came out of his nostril. It turned out it was Krishna. And he started flying around in the form of a hog, and a sacred hog. And the sages who were present at the time recognized his divinity and started offering, of course it's a flying hog, started offering prayers. And of course it was an answer to Brahma's conundrum, which was, how do I pick the earth back up again? So Krishna just manifested. So there's a way in which we need help. And if we pray for Krishna's help specifically, and we're articulate about it, or even non-articulate, Gajendra wasn't that articulate in the beginning because he hadn't much idea about who the Supreme was. That's another part of praying and asking for help that's important, and that is Gajendra, although he had been a devotee in his previous life, when he got into trouble, does anybody remember what kind of trouble he got into? He got bit. Anybody here ever get bit? Crocodile. When you're least expecting it, mosquitoes, monkeys, and death come unexpectedly. And apparently, was it an alligator or a crocodile? This is serious. We need some biologists in here. Crocodile? Crocodile, to quote Avantika, bit him. So he didn't just bite once, but he bit and held on and wouldn't let go. And then Gajendra, after some time, had this sense that I need help. And he simultaneously remembered some of the prayers that he had memorized in his previous life, because he had recited them every day. So those types of things can come back to you in your next life. So Prabhupada mentions that one should memorize the Brahma Samhita and also the Nrsimha Stotra and other prayers in case you become an animal in your next life. Or, and you're anywhere. So as he sang the prayers and asked for help, then Krishna understood from the tone of his prayers that it was for him. And simultaneously, the devas, highly empowered beings within the universe, who are subservient to Krishna, could understand that it's not meant for us. Apparently it's a different tone. Krishna could understand. So that's another nuance to the lesson, is that when we call out, we should have that tone to our voice that I really need help. And if we can be articulate, as was Kardama Muni when he prayed to do his work as a sage, to do sacrifices, he needed help. He needed a wife. And of course, when he asked Narayan, who had appeared before him after he had controlled his senses for thousands of years, and Narayan just said, yeah, I know. I know that. Why wouldn't I know that? And he made an arrangement for him. And Krishna is fulfilling the desire of every living entities. Saparya gach shukram akayam avranam asnaviram shudham apapavidam kavir manishi paribu swayambur yatat yatyatortan veradashasvatibhya samabhyaha. That's Anushrie's favorite verse. At least it used to be. So he's been fulfilling every living entity's desire since a time immemorial. And he's also up to the task because he doesn't have a material body. Apapa vidam. He's completely pure and all-powerful. Can fulfill everyone's desires simultaneously, all at once. And he knows everyone. This is Bhagavad Gita. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishami chabutani mam tu vedana kaschana. He says, I know everything, I know everybody. Sometimes people say that. We were going door to door one morning, and a man came to the door in his bathrobe, and I showed him Bhagavad Gita, and he goes, I know everything. So I had to go gather the other devotees to bring and meet him. I said, you got to see this guy. He knows everything. You ask him whatever you want, he'll answer it. He said, no, not like that. But Krishna actually can tell you everything, and he can supply whatever we need. In fact, the Vedas say, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yovidhati Kaman. There's a supreme eternal being, and there is a plurality of subordinate beings. And the one supreme being is supplying everything for the others. That's a good thing to know. And Krishna says in the Gita also that if you're clear on this, and you dedicate your energies to me, whatever sacrifices you do for me. Like he says, Yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat johosi dadasyat, yat tapasyasi kontaya, tat kurushva mararpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, whatever you sacrifice for, do it as an offering to me. And he said, then you'll become perfect by that method. Because he's as he says, the Bhoktarang Jagatapasam. He's the one who can receive all sacrifices and digest them and then distribute them to everybody perfectly, the way they should be. And so any difficult task can be accomplished by remembering Brahma's mood. It's prayerful. It's in a mood of being an instrument, that I'm doing it for Krishna. And he's very thoughtful and articulate as he does it. So let's hear this next verse, and we'll go through it. This is Brahma, and it's in the 2nd canto, 5th chapter, 11th verse. And here Brahma says, I create after the Lord's creation, by his personal effulgence, known as the Brahmajyoti, just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, the influential planets, and the twinkling stars also manifest their brightness. Can you look up firmament, please? You were already doing it. That's pretty good. Huh? You mean sky? Why don't we just say sky? It's one syllable. Let's see if there's any nuance to it. Thank you, Shraddha. Yes, firmament for 500, please. He needs a microphone. Here, there's the red one there.
Okay, so firmament is a noun, and it means the heavens or the sky, especially when regarded as a tangible thing.
Oh. Especially when regarded as a tangible thing. Can you tell us where it came from?
So it first started in Latin as firmare, which means to fix or settle. And then it went to firmamentum. It's also Latin, and then Old French, firmament.
So, as in firm, it's established, it's real. The firmament. Okay. Ostensibly that which doesn't, you can look to the firmament and it's dependable. For instance, the sea captains look at the stars, the firmament, and navigate accordingly. I'll read the verse one more time. I create after the Lord's creation by his personal effulgence, known as the Brahmajyoti. Just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, the influential planets, and the twinkling stars also manifest their brightness. So this is a comparison to the effulgence of Krishna. It's highly consequential because, as Brahma is saying here, when the sun comes out, everything becomes activated and there's life in the universe. And similarly, Krishna is the life behind everything. In fact, in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I'm the life of all that lives. And it's really easy to conceptualize that by seeing how the sun is bringing life to everything. And we might take it for granted because we're used to the cycles of the sun on our earthly planet and how we just think, well, it's autumn, and so everything looks autumnal. And that means light's going down, life's going down a little bit into winter when it's really dark and cold. Not as much light, but when the light comes back, then everything springs back and comes to life again. And you can imagine from this verse about Krishna, Eka desha stitasyagner joshna vistarani yata parasya brahmana shaktis tatedam akilam jagat. Vishnu Purana says that although the sun is in one place, but he distributes his energy everywhere in the universe, similarly, Krishna, although in one place, distributes his energy everywhere, infinitely. So you can think of Krishna, when you see life anywhere, you can imagine it's being, not imagined, you can know that it's being sustained by the effulgence of Krishna. Purport. Lord Brahmaji said to Narada that his impression that Brahma was not the supreme authority in the creation was correct. Sometimes less intelligent men have the foolish impression that Brahma is the cause of all causes. But Narada wanted to clear the matter by the statements of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe. As the decision of the Supreme Court of a state is final, similarly the judgment of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe, is final in the Vedic process of acquiring knowledge. As we have already affirmed in the previous verse, Naradaji was a liberated soul. Therefore, he was not one of the less intelligent men who accept a false god or gods in their own ways. He represented himself as less intelligent and yet intelligently presented a doubt to be cleared by the supreme authority so that the uninformed might take note of it and be rightly informed about the intricacies of the creation and the Creator. This is an important point that I'd like to touch upon and will, and that is that doubting is important. In fact, Kapila Dev mentions in his teachings to Devahuti in the 3rd canto that doubting is a function of the intelligence because it's meant to help us systematically come to a clear understanding of the truth, which is called Siddhanta. A perfect understanding means you know what something is, you also know what it isn't. And by the Socratic method, asking questions, one can come to understand that. That is, what is the ultimate truth? And especially it's important if one has doubts that one should clear them. Don't harbor them, bring them out. We see this in a dramatic way in the Bhagavad Gita because Arjuna had a huge doubt about what he was supposed to do. And he didn't hold back. He expressed himself to Krishna. He had a breakdown. Do you ever have a breakdown? only a third. I guess I can relate. Yeah, so it's actually good because then you can start over and you can really clear your soul and clear your doubts. And so, like, no more pretense. Prabhupada mentioned that the other day. When all seems lost and futile, then there's a self-searching that takes place and one feels free to just inquire about what's my ultimate purpose, because the charade seems to have been revealed and now I can't pretend anymore, so I just have to be myself, which is a kind of a relief, because not just on Halloween. In fact, sometimes, and I read recently that people are more free to be themselves when they're behind a mask, and therefore masks are popular. I mean, not during the pandemic, they're not popular, but in general, the idea of masking oneself and then saying what you want to say because no one knows who you are, so what am I trying to protect anyway in normal times? And when by circumstance the mask is pulled back and everyone sees who you are anyway, it's like, oh well, might as well be myself. Isn't that a relief? Because it's a 24/7, if I may use that phrase, endeavor to be somebody I'm not. It takes a lot of work, a lot of prepping and preening to present myself to others as something different or better than I am. So, Brahma here represented himself as less intelligent, yet intelligently presented a doubt to be cleared. So clearing doubts is important, and this is one of the ways in which one can make rapid advancement in spiritual life, is to find those teachers who can remove your doubts and then bring them and make an arrangement that I have doubts, you can clear them, how about if we get together? I'll present the doubts, you cut them to pieces, and then we'll go on with our lives. And if you have that kind of arrangement, then you can be unburdened very quickly, and it's one of the duties of somebody who has knowledge is to help other people become unburdened. Next, in this verse, Brahmaji clears up the wrong impression held by the less intelligent and affirms that he creates the universal variegatedness after the potential creation by the glaring effulgence of Lord Sri Krishna. Brahmaji has also separately given this statement in the Samhita known as Brahma Samhita 540. You can see the verse. I was going to ask you if you knew it. Yasya prabhavato jagaranda koti koti sheshesha vasudadi vibhuti binam tad brahma nishkalam shesha bhutam govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami. I serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental bodily effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti, which is unlimited, unfathomed, and all-pervasive, is the cause of the creation and unlimited numbers of planets, etc., with varieties of climates and specific conditions of life. The same statement is in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27. Lord Krishna is the background of the Brahma Jyoti, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. In the Nirukti, or Vedic dictionary, the import of pratishta is mentioned as that which establishes. So, the Brahma Jyoti is not independent of or self-sufficient. Lord Sri Krishna is ultimately the creator of the Brahma Jyoti, mentioned in this verse as Swarochisa, or the effulgence of the transcendental body of the Lord. This Brahmajyoti is all-pervading, and all creation is made possible by its potential power. Therefore, the Vedic hymns declare that everything that exists is being sustained by the Brahmajyoti. Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. Therefore, the potential seed of all creation is the Brahmajyoti. And the same Brahmajyoti, unlimited and unfathomed, is established by the Lord. Therefore, the Lord, Sri Krishna, is ultimately the supreme cause of all creation. Aham sarvasya prabhava. Last paragraph. Ready? Yes. One should not expect the Lord to create like a blacksmith with a hammer and other instruments. The Lord creates by his potencies. He has his multifarious potencies, parasa shaktir vivadaiva shuyate. Just as the small seed of a banyan fruit has the potency to create a big banyan tree, the Lord disseminates all varieties of seeds by his potential Brahmajyoti Swarochisa. And the seeds are made to develop by the watering process of persons like Brahma. Brahma cannot create the seeds, but he can manifest the seed into a tree, just as a gardener helps plants and orchards to grow by the watering process. The example cited here of the sun is very appropriate. In the material world, the sun is the cause of all illumination. Fire, electricity, the rays of the moon, etc. All luminaries in the sky are creations of the sun. The sun is the creation of the Brahmajyoti, and the Brahmajyoti is the effulgence of the Lord. Thus, the ultimate cause of creation is the Lord. So, everything starts in seed form. And whether we have, or when we have an idea to do something, to create something, it starts as an idea, which is a kind of seed. And then it becomes manifest more and more as we water the seed by taking steps towards watering it. And the water is really giving it attention. So in the same way, everything that we see around us originates from consciousness. And we say consciousness, it's not a formless consciousness or impersonal. Consciousness means a person. We find in conscious beings a personality, a will, volition, and so forth. And the idea that the original source of everything is impersonal is refuted in this verse, and it's very soundly refuted in the Bhagavad Gita as well, where Arjuna directly asks Krishna, what's better, your impersonal form or the personal form? Especially for those who want to place their attention somewhere. And Krishna definitively says that meditating on my impersonal form is troublesome for living beings who are embodied. However, if you think of Krishna's personal form and then understand that it's the origin of everything, then aham sarvasya pravavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. With that knowledge, and by giving our attention to the form of Krishna, knowing he's the source of everything, we can wholeheartedly worship him. And it is natural also, because we're not accustomed to meditating on anything impersonal. We're used to everything coming from a person. And we can experience in our life also that everything comes from a person. For instance, we all came from parents. Of course, Mahaguna, Satyadev's wife, when she first met Prabhupada, I think she didn't know who her parents were, and maybe she was orphaned or something, I can't remember. But when they met Prabhupada, he asked about her parents, and she said, I don't have any parents. And he said, oh, the stork brought you? Do you know that's a thing people used to tell kids, like, where do babies come from? From the stork. Stork is a big bird, you know about that, right? And then it drops off the baby, like where'd it come from? But that was a joke. I'm not saying you have to laugh now, but I'm just saying it's a joke because we understand that babies come from the mother's womb, and that there's a seed-giving process through which the baby then becomes possible. So everything works like that in this world, and therefore everything can be traced back if we look at our parents and we say, did they have parents? And although I may not at first know who they are, it's possible to trace them back, or it might be at some point. I know that people nowadays look at the DNA and trace back and look and see the different contributions to your present body that have been involved. I've never done it, but I looked at my brothers and I got a pretty good idea because probably saved me $300. But it was mixed up enough to know that there's a long history to the body. But if you keep going, you'll come back to an original source. And we talk often, especially in circles where people aren't so much identified with a personal source, we talk about our original conscious source. Because people really don't think that much about where they come from originally, or logically how the source would be personal if we have personality and qualities. And since we're emanations from that source, it's logical that that source also has personality and qualities. So that's important because if we come to that understanding logically, and then it's supported by Brahmano hi pratishtaham, as Krishna says in the Gita, and this is the verse that Prabhupada's alluding to, Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasya vayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya. Last line? Sukhasya kantikasya cha. Krishna says that I'm the basis of the impersonal Brahman. It's coming from me. So, when I was a kid, I used to look at the sky and I'd wonder where it all ends. Did you ever think about that? And then I was asking if there was a door or something. Like if it stops at a certain place, then what? Where does it go after that? It's kind of natural for living beings to think about, like, where did I come from and where does it all start? But that can be sublimated by the work at hand. I mean, it's possible to go through one's childhood without asking that because, after all, there are Halloween parties to attend. And then there's school, where they don't really talk about it much, or if they do, it's in a superficial way. And then in adulthood, one has to get going because you have to pay off the student loan. And who knows what else you need it for in order just to live. And then one day finds oneself in the youth of old age. Did you know 60 is the youth of old age? His Holiness Indra Maharaj told me. He said 60 is the youth of old age. So that's great. I know how I felt in my youth, and now I know how I feel now. I hate to see the old age of my old age. And so there's a way in which we're emanations from Krishna. We can trace that back. And we may forget about that in a whole lifetime. So it's important to, thank you, it's important to make the inquiry and find out what is the origin. And this is something Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita. He starts by describing this in the 15th chapter, saying, you're really lost. And if you've ever been, we're lost existentially, but have you ever been lost in a city? Really lost? And then you didn't know, you couldn't find your way back? Sometimes kids get lost at the state fair. State fairs are infamous for that. You walk in, come on, now you wait right here. Then come back, it's like, where'd he go? I don't know where he went. And then instead of having a good time, the parents for the next 3 hours, people make an announcement. The kid, is like a couple blocks away, but he's way, and he's lost. And so we're actually lost. It's a scary feeling to not know where your protectors are and how to get back. So Krishna says, you're lost like that. Narupa masyeha tatopa labhyate nanto nacha dirnacha sampratishta ashvatamenam vurudamulam asanga shastrena dridhena chittava. You're lost in this huge cosmos. And you have no idea what you're doing. Where you came from, where you're going, how long you've been here. You could do the 23andMe, but it doesn't answer the question. And so he says, knock it off. Enough's enough. You've come to the human form of life. Now's your chance to cut out all the stuff that you don't need and get to the real point. As Dridhena Chitva, he said, knock it off. Just stop it already. Stop wandering around. Don't loiter. Loitering is illegal in a lot of places because there's signs at 7-Eleven say no loitering. So loitering means you're here without a real purpose. So he says then get to the point. Start focusing your attention on your source, where you come from originally. And then he says, once you know that source, parimargitavyam, now you've got a real journey to do. And if you know where you're going, and you know what's there when you get there, even theoretically, the journey is blissful even on the first step, because now I'm taking a purposeful step. I'm going towards that original source, my home. I'm no longer lost. I know the way back. I was lost in Japan once. I know you've heard this a million times, but there's a river. How hard is it to follow a river? So I followed the river. It goes right through Tokyo, and I went for a long time. And then I turned around to come back. How did I know that there were two rivers? So I was following the other river back, and I kept walking and walking. And the further I walked, the more I thought I was making progress, but actually I was getting more lost. That's the material world. I think I'm making progress. Hey, I just got $1 million more. And like everything we get, every step we take here, we're going the wrong direction. And I had a sense when I was walking along the river the first time that I was happy-go-lucky. But then when I officially was lost and couldn't see any way back, and I also had a plane to catch, had that. And I didn't know the address. Had no phone. I'll keep making it more dramatic. That time, I couldn't express myself in Japanese. No one I met there, it was a smaller part of Tokyo, spoke English. So I was really lost. And I was no longer happy-go-lucky. I felt a little panicky. Like, now what? So then systematically, I looked at the map, and then it finally dawned on me there were two rivers. And then I made my way back. I recognized some of the terrain. And what a relief when you see, okay, now I know my way home. So in Krishna consciousness, that's the feeling. It's a home-going feeling. I'm really going home. So whatever else happens is not that consequential. It's not as important as the journey. So this is parimargitavyam. I'm making the journey back to the source. And it's a loving source. He's a loving source. He's the one who's been supporting me all the time. And he's my support in everything. It's just, I really haven't known about it. I haven't known about him. So parimargitavyam. And you can go there and personally meet. And we know that from this story. We're going to hear about it soon. You're you've already heard it before. Even the babies here have heard it because they heard the whole Bhagavatam with the womb. But Brahma shakes hands with Krishna. Come on. That's nice, right? And Krishna says to him, the coolest thing you could possibly say, Badram Te. Hey, Brahma. Go for it. Huh? Prabhu? 286. 286. Okay. Let's look at 286, please, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Special request of the Pandit in the front row. So, all of this knowledge that we're getting from the Srimad Bhagavatam and this section is bringing us to this journey. And we know where the end point is. We have an existential crisis here. It's not bad to be lost in the Bhagavatam. If you're lost on your phone and you start going, why did I pick the thing up in the first place? How did I end up in Afghanistan? Dautatma Purusha Krishna. Yeah, this is the verse. Dautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam Namunchati Muktasarva Pariklesha Panta Swasharanam Yata. So Panta means the path, and Swasharanam means your home. It's a sweet name for home because Swa means yourself and Sharanam means where you take shelter. You think of that. Say Swasharanam. That's our home where we can actually take shelter. Prabhu, you brought it up so you can comment on it. Oh, I insist. You could do whatever you wish.
No, the
You're
point.
a free living entity.
The point you made about getting lost and going back to the Tokyo's temple actually brought up this verse to me, and I just that's the only thing, and then
It's perfect.
really cooling to the.
It's really perfect. It's kind of what I had in mind, but I didn't, it didn't come to that point. So let's look at the Sanskrit again, because that's really, it says Dautatma Purusha Krishna. So it's naming Krishna as the end of the journey. And Padamulam Namunchati. When you actually come to take shelter of Krishna, then your journey has come to an end. And so it's an analogy to a traveler. Mukta sarva pariklesha. All the miseries of somebody who's traveling. And of course, you all know that the word travel comes from the word travail. And where does travail come from? An instrument of torture. It's a kind of, humans are perverse, aren't they? So it's some instrument with like 3 balls on it where you hit people and it, rips their flesh. And so that came into the word travail, which comes into the word travel. Huh? Now you know why the airlines have such bad service. It's travail. It's a kind of torture. So that torture is over. Yes. The torture is over. Yeah, put up the word for word. Okay, so Dauta Atma, whose heart has been cleansed. Purusha, the living being, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Pada Mulam, the shelter of the lotus feet, Na, never, Munchati, gives up, Mukta, liberated, Sarva, all, Pariklesha, of all the miseries of life. You can put them all in one place and count them up. And Panta, the traveler, Swasharanam, in his own abode, Yata, as it were. So just as a traveler who comes home is unburdened and feels quite satisfied. So similarly, one who comes to Krishna and feels satisfied as the traveler. Let's read the translation. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. Isn't that nice? Bhagavatam's nice. We can relate to it as living entities. It speaks to us very personally. It says, I know, it's okay. We're going to handle this together. That's why it's so important to distribute the Bhagavatam too. In fact, just the other day, Lokaram Prabhu sent me or he sent it to a forum that I'm on, a paragraph from one of Prabhupada's writings does somebody have it handy? Because I sent it somewhere. You got it? He wrote in his Delhi Bhagavatam about his intention to distribute the Bhagavatam. Now, you're all going to be interested in hearing this again because, can I see it? Oh, go ahead. Malini, you read it. That's befitting.
Formerly, even 50 years before, rich and well-to-do members of the society used to get Srimad Bhagavatam imprinted or handwritten along with authoritative commentaries by learned Pandits and then distribute them among the devotees of the Lord specially and the people in general casually. At the present moment, the time is so changed that we had to request one of the biggest industrialists of India to purchase 100 copies and distribute them, but the poor fellow expressed his inability. We wished that somebody may come forward to pay for the actual cost of publication of the Srimad Bhagavatam and let them be distributed free to all the leading gentlemen of the world. But nobody is so far prepared to do this social uplifting work.
Haribol! You like it, right? Kameshri, Sukeshri. Okay. Rashesh really likes it. So this is good. Now we'll take a few reflections or questions. Yes.
When I read this, Prabhu, I was just thinking that with Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada's absolute mercy and your mercy, I think we're able to do it now. We're doing it I was just thinking about devotees who say $10,000 and, and then they just give away. Even if it's one Bhagavatam, we've been giving out to so many people, even free copies of Bhagavatam.
Yep. Well, years ago, I should say in the 70s, Prabhupada asked for it. And it's not that some people didn't try. There was one devotee in Australia that put his whole consciousness into making it work. And I was in on some of those conversations. And also over in Berkeley, Hansaduda was trying, and he had some success. They went and studied the encyclopedia. You haven't probably ever heard of these guys, Encyclopedia Britannica? Yes. Well, everyone used to have a whole set in their house. I mean, I grew up with one. And was taught not to copy from it for my reports. So it's very, it's not that some haven't tried, but you're right. Now, somehow or other, by Krishna's arrangement and by Prabhupada's desire, there's a flow starting, just opening with a trickle. So we have to open it up completely wide so that the whole planet gets covered with Srimad Bhagavatam sets. That's why in the next 5 years, we have to go from 35,000. I know this is turning into a 35,000 to 100,000. 5 years. So that can be done by Lord
ISV.
Chaitanya's arrangement. Pardon me?
100,000 for ISV, right?
No, global goal. because 35,000 is what we did in the world. But that's all right, too. The number is not, it's rather arbitrary, but we always have to have a fresh challenge to reach up for it. And we have to have something that seems at the moment to be impossible. Because unless we have that intrigue in our lives that we're working for the impossible, then life's really boring and it's torturous. So we need to have this full absorption in a mission-based growth. Not growth just for the sake of getting bigger, but we have to have an idea of where we're going and what we're trying to do that's purposeful. And that's why I love this quote, and I want to lead with it wherever we go, because it's so raw and pure. You can see Prabhupada's desire and also his open plea and saying, like, nobody wants to help. So we do, right? Yeah. So if you have that, there's nothing more valuable than have that purpose in your life. Everything else then becomes a support of that, going towards that mission. And if we set our sights on something that's simultaneously possible and impossible, and we reach for it, then we'll watch before our very eyes the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu unfold in our lives, and that's what we want to see. Okay, let's take a few more reflections or questions. Oh, good, Subhadra.
Sometime while you've been reading this, it sounds like everything is coming from the rays of Krishna, and sometimes it sounds like everything is Brahman. Is there a difference between Brahman and the Brahmajyoti?
Well, Krishna differentiates his energies. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says there's a lower energy and a higher energy. That's why he starts with mentioning the separated energies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. And then he says, besides these, there's a superior energy. In the ultimate end, it's to Krishna, it's all spiritual, because he's spiritual, and therefore everything that emanates from him is part of him. It's connected to him. So the point about the Brahman being the source of everything, as modified here, you hear in this purport by Prabhupada mentioning how everything is there in seed form. And that's also helpful metaphor, or it's really not even a metaphor, it's actually literal, in the sense that everything, as I said earlier, starts from seed. And so from the subtlety of from the subtle forms of all variety in this material world, they're all present there within the Brahmajyoti, and then they are manifest by the secondary creator, Brahma. And so Brahma creates in a subtle way also. He uses mantra. Everything's already coded. The codes are already available. Now I'm talking your language, right? So the codes are already there. You just present them and put them in the right place. And then the algorithm starts and everything manifests the way it should, if the code is right. So Krishna is giving these codes that they're already available. Brahma is enlightened with the codes for creation, and then he speaks them. He has to be a completely pure being to be able to perceive the seeds. That's why if you want to be Brahma, if anyone wants to apply for this job, you have to have 100 births that are completely perfect in alignment with the Varnashram. No mistakes. Then you become Brahma. That's why Brahma is called Vidhi. Oh, Vidhi, Krishna calls him Vidhi because it's like, oh, one who follows every rule and regulation perfectly. Then he becomes empowered to be able to manifest those items. So it's a hard question to answer exactly, but the point is everything is Brahman in one sense, sarva kalavidam Brahma, everything is Brahman, but it has variegatedness within it. And there's variety within the oneness. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajjanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. There, even within the Krishna's manifestation, it's known that he's in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So those are three varieties within the oneness.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, we'll take one more question or reflection. Yes.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, from the quote of Srila Prabhupada that he wanted someone to sponsor the Bhagavatam and then be able to distribute it to others. I just wanted to share something from yesterday's book distribution. We went to one door and the person at the door, he said, he told us that the person standing behind you, I talked to him last week. I'm not interested already. And then we thought, okay. And then we moved on. After that, we met one very elderly person who was walking around. He was doing his evening walk with a mask. And when we showed him Bhagavatam, then he said he was visiting from India. He is visiting from India. And he said, I would like to read Bhagavatam. And I know my wife also would be interested. But then he said, I cannot. I'm visiting my daughter here. I need to go and check with her, and I am dependent on them. So then he walked, and then he entered the home. We just had talked to. So we were thinking that, oh no, but then he walked inside. He went. He spoke. We could see from the door, and then he came back, and then he said that they said no, and I'm really sorry. I wanted to read, but I cannot accept. Then Achyuta Prabhu is there, and he want to give the Bhagavatam, and he said, you just take this. Don't worry. We are not asking for anything. You just take the Bhagavatam. Just your desire to read is enough. Please take this. Then he said, they are not inclined to take it, so I don't want to disturb the environment. And it was a pinch in the heart of all the devotees, seeing so much inconvenience, even though he has a desire, even though there is devotees are offering and he's not able to accept. It's really difficult situation actually. And he has a sincere desire, the way he was explaining. My wife and me both would like to read. And then Achyuta Prabhu said, where will you go back to when you go to India? So then he said, I'll Pune. He said, okay, give your Pune address. You don't have to ask anybody. And he was so happy. Yeah, you can send it to my address in India. He was so happy. And then Achyuta Prabhu noted his address, and he said, yeah, you will get it soon. He's leaving in 8 days to go back to India, and he said, you'll soon get here. And then Naveen Daulat Prabhu was there, and Prabhu said, so Prabhu, how are we going to have a donation for this, Because Prabhu is very enthusiastic. He joined our team for the Sankirtan. And then, we were mentioning that we will sponsor it, and there are so many devotees who are willing to sponsor. Even our Sudeep Sabnis Prabhu, he always mentions that if you meet somebody who wants Bhagavatam and he cannot somehow donate, please let me know. I would like to sponsor. So, there are so many people who are pouring their heart out to want to give the Bhagavatam. So I just wanted to mention that because, that quote from Prabhupada, and that's how it happened yesterday, and he was very happy to receive.
Thank you very much, Kameshwari. Haribol. The takeaway from that is it's a very good idea to sponsor Bhagavatams. And feel free to do it because it's completely authorized. And whatever assets we have now will soon be out of our hands anyway. But if you can channel them into the distribution of Bhagavatam, just as Prabhupada asked for, then you get the eternal credit and so do the other people. By the way, Sachinanda Nimai Prabhu yesterday gave a donation of $11,000 to distribute books for the marathon on behalf of Gauri. Hare Krishna. Do that tune, that newer tune, like the Jai Radha Madhava, but the second part of the tune. Then we have from Rupa Manjari. Could I see back again? Could somebody who can see it read it, please?
He, presumably Garjendra, described the Supreme, and the Devas acknowledged they weren't Supreme. I always remember this when I read stories of random people, quote unquote, surrendering to God in the moments of extreme despair, being tortured in concentration camps, etc., without much prior knowledge of Him.
Good point, Rupa Manjari. Thank you very much. So let's take this opportunity to call out to Krishna. That's the meaning of our chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thanks, everyone. We're heading off. Yes, this is an important announcement.
Just after what you said, that it's good to sponsor, somebody online on Zoom, J.K. Patel, he said that he wants to sponsor for that person in Pune, the Bhagavatam set.
Krishna 10, Krishna 9. Now we're going to put all the seats away, open the dance floor, and feel free to dance like a butterfly for Krishna. Also, pardon me? Yeah, we're going to have Damarashkam. No dancing allowed. So just turn towards the deities, and except for Vijay Damodar, he can dance. Turn towards and we'll have a line going this way. Actually, we don't have a little gong, do we? You got a mallet by any chance? Mallets are harder than gongs, actually, because they always disappear. That? How about a spoon from the kitchen? This? Okay, I'll use that. This is pretty good, unless you got a wooden mallet. But that's all right. We'll dredge one up later. So this is a special song from the Padma Purana. And it's about the love of Krishna's devotees, which knows no ceremony. Krishna lives in Vrindavan with his devotees, and they relate to him as servants, but very intimate kind of service. And then as friends, they play with him. And as parents, there's a parental feeling amongst the devotees for Krishna. And then there are those who consider Krishna their lover. And we sing these songs because the song and music is the best way to open the heart and infuse the transcendental vibration. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the last days of his pastimes here, sat in the Gambhira, and he listened to songs by Sarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy about Krishna's Leela. So this is a very special kind of remembrance of Krishna through singing a song. And who knew that you could attain the perfection of life by singing one song again and again for a month? But you can. So if you enter into the mood of this song, which is a story that is eternal story, it's going on now, it always has been going on, in a relation that Krishna has with his mother, where she puts him down to attend to something on the stove, some milk that's boiling over, that's actually for him, and he becomes disturbed by that, angry, and breaks a pot containing butter, feeds some to the monkeys, and then runs away and his mother runs after him. It's a normal scene. We see it in the park every day, but this is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead who's playing the part of a little child. And finally, his mother Yashoda catches him and attempts to tie him up, but the rope is 2 inches too short, even with all the extensions she brings and borrows from neighbors. So finally, she's successful by Krishna's mercy, and we'll also be successful by Krishna's mercy. When he sees that we're endeavoring to serve him selflessly, he'll fulfill all our spiritual desires. Just after being tied to the wooden grinding mortar, Krishna dragged it behind him. Krishna, even as a baby, is all-powerful. No weightlifting required. No gym membership. He's always all-powerful. And he dragged the wooden grinding mortar until it lodged between 2 Arjun trees. And this is an example of how Krishna knows everything. Narada had cursed Nalakuvera and Manigriva to take the shapes of twin Arjun trees, 1 in each tree. So Krishna knows what his devotees have promised to others. He promised them in the form of a curse that you will be in the form of trees, but Krishna will come and then liberate you. So if you're feeling a little impatient in your practice of devotional service, keep in mind that Krishna hears everything. He knows everything that you've done. And he knows who you're working under. So Prabhupada had given a clear path to please Krishna by serving Lord Chaitanya's mission. And this is a principle that comes from the Bhagavatam, Mahat Kritena. If you follow the mission given by the great acharyas, then Krishna will consider that, okay, you're with him. And so you can feel assured that whatever service you're doing is being recognized and counted. So we'll sing this song from our hearts, remembering the pastime and also how merciful Krishna is to his devotees. Namam Ishvaram Sakshit Anandarupam Lasat Kundalango Kule Brajamanam. jantam karam bhoja yunena satanganetra Vidantam muhurnetra yukmam prajantam karam bhoja yunena satanganetra Muhushvashakam patrire kankakanta Sittagraivam damodaram Muhushvashakam patrire kankakanta Sittagraivam damodaram bhaktivanam Titrikshvalila-virananda-kunde Sagosham Majantam Akyapayantam Titrikshvalila-virananda-kunde Sagosham Majantam Akyapayantam Hariyeshikadeshu bhaktir-jitatvam na prema-kastam shatam vritti-bande Hariyeshikadeshu bhaktir-jitatvam na prema-kastam shatam vritti-bande Param deva moksham na moksham parinna Nachanyam prineham vare sarabhiha Param deva moksham na moksham parinna Nachanyam prineham vare sarabhiha Idam te papurnata gopala balam Sada me manasya virastam kimandam Idam te papurnata gopala balam Sada me manasya virastam kimanye Idam he mukam bojam Snigdha Raktaishta Gopya Chumbitam Bimba Raktatharam Me Manasya Virasta Balam Lakshalabhai Chumbitam Bimba Raktatharam Me Manasya Virasta Balam Lakshalabhai Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabodhuta Jalatrimata Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabodhuta Jalatrimata Drishti Vrishtyati Dinam Batani Grihaneshamam Bhatami Yakshi Drisha Kripa Drishti Vrishtyati Dinam Batani Haneshamam Madhyami Yakshi Vishya Veratma Jao Bhakta Jai Vijayata Namo Chitao Bhakti Bhajakritao Shah Veratma Jao Bhakta Jai Vijayata Namo Chitao Bhakti Bhajakritao Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakam Nipriyaksha Mokshe Graho Me Sita Mudareha Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakam Nipriyaksha Mokshe Graho Me Sita Mudareha Namaste Sudhamne Surati Pidhamne Sadiyottarayata Vishwasadhamne
Radhikaya Tvariya Priyaya Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Bo. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha.
Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmhamsa Parivrajakajaja Stotarasthi Shiman Pai Charanada Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmhamsa Parivrajakajaja Stotarasthi Shiman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokopina Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. Shri Kartik Vrat Ki Jai, Shri Damarashtakam Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Damanar Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Parikram Ki Jai, Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Govardhan Parikram Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Hare Krishna. We welcome you all to ISKCON of Silicon Valley on this auspicious day of Kartik, and we would like to thank Vaisesika Prabhu for applause is a proof of what an amazing, once-in-a-lifetime program this was, especially the class and the kirtan. Thank you, Prabhu. The sponsorships today at the temple are especially special because we have quite a few birthdays here at ISV. So I will first go through the sponsors and the birthdays, and then we can conclusively give them our heartfelt prayers and blessings. So first, Jai Shri Radhe Mataji and Sachinandan Prabhu are sponsoring today's feast for Jai Shri Radhe's mom, as it's her birthday, and they're seeking blessings so she can get initiated this year. We also have Divya Kumari Mataji, whose birthday was yesterday, and therefore they're sponsoring today's Sunday feast, and they seek all the blessings of the devotees present. Sukeshwari Mataji is sponsoring for Shastra Sara Prada's birthday, which is coming up on Wednesday. And we have Shama Jagannath Prabhu, who's sponsoring on behalf of his brother Ramesh, whose birthday it is as well. Tomorrow is also Sukomala Radhe Mataji's birthday. And Dilip Bhai Patel Prabhu is also sponsoring on the occasion of the Kartik Ekadashi. So together, let's sing.
Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
There you go. So. Is it Hansapriya's birthday? Oh, next Saturday is going to be Hansapriya's birthday. Unfortunately, Hansapriya Mataji won't be here next week to celebrate with us, so this is our special day to wish her before she heads to Vrindavan for Kartik.
We wish you safe travels everywhere you go. May you meet your Guru Maharaj. May you see all the deities of Vrindavan. May you be covered by dust from Govardhan Hill. And may you get pure love for Krishna within your heart and bring it back to all of us.
And one more birthday, Sukeshwari Mataji's birthday is also coming up. And now that we have so many sponsors for this wonderful feast, we'd like to know who the cooks are.
Hare Krishna, today's prasadam was cooked by Hansapriya Mataji, Hitesh Prabhu, Naveen Prabhu, Kalyani Mataji, Srinivas Prabhu, Sukamali Radhe Mataji, and Vijay Damodar Prabhu. And today's feast has pumpkins from Upper Maid's backyard.
To all the CHAD participants and those interested in following CHAD, which is known as Chapter a Day, this program, as a member of this program, you have to read one chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day for an entire month. And the chapter for this month is the chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. So if you'd like to participate, today's a great day to start. It's Kartik Ekadashi. So please read one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It can be either the Sanskrit or the English translations. Now, after prasadam prayers, prasadam will be served outside. Thank you all for coming today. Hare Krishna.
Sharidat vijaja jotendriya taheka jibe pele bishaya shagade dharma jedi boyati loba moisu dhurmati Take jeta katita shanchare Krishna bodha dhoyamoy Gori bare jihwa jai Shaprashad dana dilobai Shayanamrita pao Radha Krishna Guna Gao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Dita Baire Ekadina Shanti Pure Prabhu Advaitera Ghare Jui Prabhu Bojane Boshilo Shakori Ashwatana Prabhu Bole Bhaktadhana Eshak Krishna Aswadhilo Heno Shakashwadane Krishna Prema Vishemane She Preme Goro Ashwadana Jada Budi Parihari Prasada Bojanga Pori Hari Hari Bolo Sarvajan Hari Hari Bola Sarva Jan Mahapashari Govinde Nambrahmani Vaishnave Sapa Punya Vatandajan Vishwato Nadjayate Hare Parvati Kanam Hanya Shota Jayate Prasanna
chetaso yashu utpaya pachistite trayopa vikasatnanda vasavandhara charchitaha utishta bodhino dasas avamayam jayemahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasada ki Varhabhidam natavadavahu karnayo karnikarnam Dibratvasa Karnatakapisham Jayantim Jamalam Randran Venu Adhara Sudaya Purnayam Gopavrinda Vrindaranyam Sapadaramanam Pravisha Gita Kirti Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimanatakam Bhuvi Grinantiye Puridajana Krishna Kirtana Karanartana Kalapato Jani Brajita Sadbhakta Bali Hamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Viharaspadam Karnanandikaladhani Vahatu Me Jiva Maru Prangane Chaitanya Doyani Deta Varasa Lila Sudaswadini Elondunita Kedaya Vishadaya Rodniladamodaya Shamdyat Shastra Vivadaya Sasadaya Chitta Pitomadaya Shashvat Bhakti Vinodaya Samadaya Madhurya Mayadaya Chaitanya Doya Nideta Vadaya Bhuyara Mandodaya Yako Maraharasa Eva Hibaras Da Eva Chaitra Shapa Eko Nilita Malaki Surapaya Rauda Katambanila Sachai Vasvita Kapitata Surata Vyapara Lila Vida Nitaloda Siveda Stita Vitale Chaitanya Samukhan Prade Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshita Bhavan Vaisesika Kirtane Kaladasmarane Angri Bhajane Lakshmi Vitu Pujane Akurashtravi Pandane Kapipate Dasyeta Sakye Swatmani Vedani Balira Bhumi Krishna Tiresham Arajo Bhagavan Rajesha Kanayas Kadgama Vrindavana Ganya Kachiru Pasana Vrajavidu Vardena Yakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Brahma Mahalam Prema Pumarto Maha Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mahavida Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mahavida Radhara Na
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. We're leaving on Tuesday morning for the UK, and we're really going to miss you. Like, this was the best ever. Beautiful. I mean, you know, the emotions run so deep because we're going through this life and it's really happening. We're somehow or other huddled here at Prabhupada's lotus feet, and we're able to go on doing all our worldly duties the best we can, even though it's a, what did we call it yesterday? A maelstrom. What is a maelstrom? It's a dangerous whirlpool. It's a maelstrom. But somehow we're not getting sucked in because we have this shelter here. And this Kartik, first time in 20 years that, well, 19 anyway, because last year, but we don't really count it as much. Sort of the lost year, you know, although it was huge. So, you know, it's really bittersweet leaving, but we'll be feeling intense separation from everybody and being here. I was thinking recently, while we're doing these readings, like, let's just do this every day, forever, like all the time. Is that okay? Yes. All right. So, also, we're in a marathon now, and this is really important. We've got between now and about January 7th to do really big. And so because the world's so messed up, we have to make up for it and do even bigger than we have before. So every year we're inching up, and every year we come to this point and it feels like it's impossible. So that's the time when you really want to lean into it and pray to Lord Chaitanya, please let us do this. So I request everybody humbly to put your heart and soul into us, not just reaching, what did Rashika Shekhar say? The three things. Surpass and smash are the last two. What's the first one? What? We want to meet, surpass, and smash our goals. Everyone who agrees that this is a good idea, please put your hands in the air and say, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Confirmed. So please pray hard and do your due diligence to be part of this historic marathon. You will go down in the book. Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj told us. So we're going to be serving prasadam just outside in the picnic area, right? Yes. So please take prasadam to your full satisfaction. And we'll see you right back here on November 23rd, 24th, or 25th, somewhere around there. But we'll be there for whatever Sankirtan there is and everything like that. Govardhan Puja is this Friday. So please pray to Giriraj really hard, that because he fulfills all desires. And if you ask him for us to do huge and distribute more books than we've ever done before and collect more Lakshmi, then he'll fulfill our desires. Vanchakalpadurvishcha kripasindhaveva patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nantakoti vaishnaviniki jai. Go Premanande. Do big.